Hello, everyone, and welcome to iCRAG2021 Resources for Sustainable Society. I'm delighted to see so many people in attendance today, and I'm really looking forward to an excellent event. So to kick things off, we're going to open with a special recording of the iCRAGorama podcast, which covers all things Irish geoscience.
This is iCRAGorama, the live podcast about everything Irish geoscience and all things iCRAG.
I'm Niamh Faulkner.
And I'm Ben Couvin, and today's guests are Jennifer Craig and Koen Torremans. Hi everybody, and welcome to iCRAGorama. We are live for the first time.
Hi everyone, welcome to our first ever live show. This is very, very exciting.
Yes, and for those who don't know who we are doing a podcast now since 2019, so that's been a while, about Irish geoscience and all things iCRAG. That means we interview researchers from iCRAG, people who work in iCRAG, and so in all the institutes that are encompassed in iCRAG. So that's a lot of people. And today, for the first time, we're doing a live taping of iCRAGorama. I'm Ben Couvin, and I'm doing a PhD research. I'm a PhD researcher in iCRAG in UCD. And today, I'm accompanied by my co-host Niamh Faulkner. Hi.
Hi. For those who don't know me, I'm Niamh. I am doing a PhD in Trinity in carbonate mineralogy, and I am super, super excited to do this. For those who actually don't know, season 3, because of the pandemic, has all been online, with the exception of 2 episodes, which we did in the middle of the Atlantic. So this has been a kind of exciting, and completely different style for us. But we've got some amazing guests with us today. We have Jennifer Craig. Jennifer is the COO of iCRAG. And super, super excited for her to be with us today. We spoke to Murray actually in our first episode of season 3, and he was like, "You definitely need to get Jen on." So super excited to have Jen. And welcome to the stage, Jen.
Thanks.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Super excited to be here. This is great fun. And Murray, you're in big trouble. It's such a pleasure to be here for the first live broadcast of iCRAGorama. Thanks a million for asking me to participate. It's such an exciting day for iCRAG as we launch phase 2 of the centre, and also we hold our iCRAG2021 event, which is the 3rd such event that we're hosting since the inception of iCRAG. And an interesting fact, it was actually on this very day, the 2nd of December, 6 years ago in 2015, that we launched phase 1 of iCRAG. So everything's kind of come full circle 6 years later. So very excited to be here. Thanks for asking.
Thanks, Jen. We have a second guest, actually, who is one of the first people I met in iCRAG when I first arrived almost 4 years ago. And he's also been here since the very beginning. It's Koen Torremans. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing, Ben, Niamh, Jen?
Woohoo, this is great.
Great
how are
to
you
have
guys
you here.
today?
Oh, really good.
Yeah, all good. Very excited.
So, Koen, could you tell us a little bit what's your position in iCRAG, really quickly?
Yeah, sure, Ben. I'm currently a funded investigator with iCRAG. I'm an assistant professor at University College Dublin, currently working on mineral deposits and structural geology mainly.
What about you, Jen?
Before I talk about my position, I'd just like to say how proud I am of Koen as one of our first ever postdocs. Hasn't he done really, really well? And it really is great to see. So, and great to have you here, Koen. Good to see you.
Thanks, Jen.
So I hold the position of Chief Operations Officer in the Centre, and that's a role really that encompasses many diverse elements, all really targeted at managing the day-to-day operations of the Centre. I don't do this alone. I'm really lucky to have a fantastic team of excellent people who support me in this regard. And you're going to see a lot of them moderating sessions today, and they are the individuals who are managing today's virtual conference. Another really interesting aspect of my role is the strategic element. So I work very closely with our director, Murray Hitzman, our executive management committee and various other committees, and our researchers on really developing and then implementing the strategic vision of the centre. And you're going to hear an awful lot about that through the sessions later today. So please tune into as much as you can.
And yeah, I mean, I definitely want to reiterate what Jen just said about so great for Fergus and the rest of the team. Thank you so much for having us on today. And yeah, we wouldn't be able to do it without you guys. And we will be taking questions at the end of this session. So if you have any questions for us, feel free to pop them in the comments and we'll get to them at the end. But yeah, so let's dive in, I guess. So Jen, you've been at iCRAG since its inception. And you mentioned today that it was 6 years ago today that it sort of launched. How did iCRAG come into fruition?
So I guess if I was to choose one word, I would say the word community. And I'll get to the reasons why I say that. It was a real privilege for me to join iCRAG in early 2015. I certainly cannot take any credit for its inception or ensuring it was funded in the first place. Many other people were involved in that. Many might not be aware that, when SFI, Science Foundation Ireland, our funder, when they first opened the large-scale centres, research centres call, Earth Sciences actually wasn't eligible to apply. And, it didn't really fall under the national research prioritisation areas at the time. So on learning this, a number of people within the Irish geoscience community, based both nationally and also people who were based internationally, Irish geoscientists based internationally, they came together and did two really, really important things. First, they made the case that really Earth Sciences could fit within SFI's broad remit, and there was a place for a research centre in this area. And secondly, they secured agreement from industry that should we be eligible to apply for funding, that actually they would commit to putting forward some cash to support the industry side of the application. As really a direct result of both of these actions, Earth Sciences was included in the 2013 call. So following this, some very key individuals, a lot of whom are still in iCRAG today, a lot of whom I hope are on this call and certainly will be later, they worked together very closely with Geological Survey Ireland to create the stage 1 of expression of interest. And we were then invited to make a full application. And that full application really ended up in bringing the very large Irish geoscience community together under a very large work programme at a scale which really had previously never, ever been done in our community. And, we demonstrated that we could collectively build a large viable programme, both scientifically and financially. And we were awarded the funding in 2014. iCRAG officially started on the 1st of January 2015 under Professor John Walsh's leadership as director.
Yeah, actually, we did an episode with John Walsh and earlier last season, and it was really fun for me as I arrived after, a few years after the start of iCRAG, to hear his story about how iCRAG was starting, and it was so fascinating. So I recommend, if you're listening to that episode, if you want all the full details of the chaos that was the moving all the people from Liverpool and all that. Anyway, but Jen, what I'm really curious about is you actually have a chemistry research background. So what made you want to get involved in the management of a Geoscience Research Centre?
Well, I can safely say I never thought I would be managing a geoscience research centre. I certainly, as far back as I can remember, I wanted to really be a chemist. I remember getting my first chemistry set from my dad when I was about 9 or 10 years old one Christmas, and making those copper sulfate crystals and sort of being a little hooked. I was more hooked on crystallography than I realised, but it certainly ignited a love of science for me, and I did actually. I went into UCD to undertake a degree in general science, specialising then in chemistry, and went quite far down an academic career track, did a number of postdocs. But it was really, at that point, having been lab manager of our lab, that I realised I kind of liked this concept of research support and, even though it didn't really exist back then, it certainly exists now. Professional research management is a thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I took a keen interest. I did a lot of things for a number of years after that. I worked managing smaller SFI clusters. I worked in startups, worked in European Research Office for a while. And it was at that time, actually, having come back after having my second daughter, that my line manager showed me the job spec for the iCRAG position. And I remember very, very clearly saying to her, I can't do that job. I won't get that job. I'm not a geoscientist. I'm not a geologist. I'm just nobody. They're not going to hire me. But, you know, I went home that night and reading about iCRAG, I started to get really, really interested and excited in what the role was, and noticed, you know, it really encompassed a lot of the skills that I had developed over the years. And it would provide me an ability to work really in a very different area with a diverse and really interesting set of individuals. So, you know, I'm obviously, I got the job, I'm still here 7 years later. And you know, now I really can't unthink the geosciences. I see pretty much everything through that lens.
Niamh, did you have a question for Koen, maybe?
I was going to say, you know, I love that you would, when we were speaking about this earlier, you mentioned that even your daughters think that you're a geoscientist,
they're convinced that they go and tell their teachers that, yeah, my mom's a geologist, and then
I'm a chemist, I swear. So Koen, you were actually one of iCRAG's first hires. You've kind of also been here, so much, Jen, since its sort of fruition. How did you get involved with the centre? Because you're from Belgium, right? You're not from Ireland.
Yeah, I'm from Belgium. I guess the stoic answer would be I applied to a job after my PhD period. But you know, I guess it's interesting to think why I applied to iCRAG and why I wanted to come to Ireland of all places. So I guess my PhD, I did my PhD in Leuven, KU Leuven in Belgium, and it was initially a fairly academic basic research PhD, you know, think about the world kind of thing. I was a structural geologist looking at veins, and one of the study areas I looked at was the Central Africa Copper Belt, which we are working on now, and so I got exposed to the minerals industry, got to do field work, and I really enjoyed that. And so gradually I grew to love the idea of working on applied geoscience, but obviously with a bit of a basic research background. And so I was looking for jobs in industry, and then I saw this ad come up for a postdoc in iCRAG, and that was the postdoc with John Walsh on structural controls on the Irish zinc lead deposits, and working with a 3D platform team, 3D modeling team here that came to be in iCRAG later. So I guess that's the start for me, and I was kind of lucky in a way that it was a long postdoc, which are
How long did it last?
Initially I was hired for 4 years, believe it or not.
Oh wow!
I don't know why, but see that was one of the advantages, I think, in the beginning, especially to get this boost going, right? And you know, but I kept myself busy trying to get new projects going as I went along.
Yeah, and you actually managed to go from a postdoc position to now you are an ad astra lecturer, like an assistant professor, right? And you did all of this in iCRAG through all your time to iCRAG. So how was that experience for you? Did you expect when you started that it would last that long in a way, or did you expect that? Or
no, not at all, Ben. I mean, I guess I never would have really have the idea of I want to be an academic at the end of this in my head. Absolutely not. I was keen to keep sort of ties with industry. You know, there's relatively few people that go into an academic career, and I was very keen to have an applied research career, so I could be flexible either way. And I'm still doing that, very applied research. So I guess to a large degree with the help of a lot of different people in iCRAG, lots of mentors I've had over the years. In the beginning, especially John Walsh, John Coen, and then later on Murray himself. I managed to, I guess, grow a little bit. I applied to a Marie Curie fellowship to do in UCD, and I was, to my great surprise, successful. And it wasn't even on the radar when I came here. I was like, what is a Marie Curie? What is applying for postdoc fellowship? So really, with the help of the ops team as well, different people there who help write grants and give you tips and hints and opportunities. So managed to do that, and then after that, I did a number of other projects, notably, I guess, sort of applying the insights that I had from my Marie Curie fellowship, which was looking at numerical modeling of Irish, of the structural controls on Irish deposits. And then I did an applied sort of embedded part-time fellowship with tech afterwards. And then applied to the Ad Astra fellowship, and here I am.
So what, we've touched on it a little bit, but what has made you both sort of want to stay in iCRAG for the past 6 years? Because I know, especially with from a researcher's point of view, especially doing like postdocs, you tend to sort of bounce around. But what has made you guys both stay with the centre?
I'm happy to answer that first, if you like. So it's a really good question, and one I do ask myself. I'm coming to the end of my 7th year now in iCRAG, so it's been a long time, and it really has been a fantastic journey so far, full of ups and downs. Happy to say more ups than downs, which is a good thing. I'm really proud of the impact we've had so far as a centre, and you're going to hear about that in way more detail from Murray later. But really one of the collective biggest achievements of the centre is I mentioned it before, is bringing the Irish geosciences together on a scale never seen before. And really become this globally recognized research center. I see people out there, they know who iCRAG are, and I'm really proud of that, and to be able to be that type of center undertaking world-class research and training, really, really excellent young researchers. That's just fantastic, and I'm very, very lucky in my role, to be right in the middle of that and to be helping achieve that. And I'm very passionate about that. So, it's important to me. And, I really believe in what iCRAG is trying to achieve, helping to address our sustainability and climate challenges facing our planet, and I really want to remain a part of that going forward.
Yeah, I can totally echo that, Jen. I suppose from my perspective, what really attracted me and, kept me attracted to keeping involved with iCRAG is just, I'm in the iCRAG office here in UCD, and there's, not now, unfortunately, but, there's dozens of researchers across all the disciplines, and it's fabulous to talk to people who work on the energy challenge, who work on, say, offshore wind, who work on, say, paleontology, sedimentology, all these different disciplines that are together. And I think that's fairly unique in the world, to have this kind of transdisciplinary group of researchers working towards, similar solutions. Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely relate with that, Koen, especially with, obviously, since we've been doing the podcast online. Prior to this, I'd met a couple of people in iCRAG at the iCRAG 2019 summit, but then doing this online, I've met so many more people, and it's just really interesting that there is such a diversity of areas studied in iCRAG. I mean, both Ben and I are part of the environmental geoscience program. We had our sort of biannual meeting last week, and even there's just 8 or 9 of us in there, and even just within that, the scope is so big and just covering so many different areas, which is it's really exciting, and it's just really encouraging as well for where there's just a really cool bunch of research going on, basically. I think it's really great.
Yeah, totally. And actually, we've been renewed funding for another 6 years through the phase 2 of iCRAG. So what are you both looking forward to the most for the next phase of funding that we get? Maybe Jen first.
Well, I mean, I'm obviously going to say I'm looking forward to continuing doing our excellent science. That's a no-brainer. And I'm looking forward to working with many, many more new and interesting people. I think we can all agree it's been a rough road since March 2020. Interesting times, I think, and really in the last while, our focus has been very much on ensuring that the researchers from phase 1 and our other ancillary programs have been able to continue or at least finish out their projects. So that's been really, really important. And now there's a big focus on ensuring that the phase 2 projects can get off the ground and the remaining other projects still continue. So, although we're not out of the woods yet, hopefully we will be soon. I'm amazed at what we've managed to achieve since March 2020. I really am. And it's incredible. And Niamh, you just said it there yourself, what you can achieve working in a virtual world and how you can engage in a virtual world. And that's really excellent. And I think that hybrid world is certainly here to stay, So in some ways, I'm actually looking forward to how we successfully grow iCRAG in a very different manner than the one we expected. So, that will be an interesting thing to look for at the next stage of our journey.
What about you, Koen?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I suppose with the change to iCRAG2, as you said, Ben, there's been an even more broader scope now, and we're pulling in from different challenges. For example, the Earth Systems Challenge and Earth in Society, and I think all the new investigators and researchers that have come online, I really look forward to working with them and then bringing them in contact with our stakeholders, industry partners, and governmental organizations that we work with. I think that's what would attract me. Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you for that. I think it's time we took some questions from the audience. Actually, people have been asking some questions, and we're going to read some of them and see what's going on. If you still have a question, it's still time to ask your question now. So let's see. The first question is actually for Niamh and I from Fergus. Where did the idea to start iCRAGorama come from? And do you see yourselves maybe going down the science communication route after your PhDs are finished? Well, the idea of iCRAGorama started from Anthea and I, Anthea Lakia. If you hear us, Koen's partner. And we just decided to start this podcast to actually get to know all the people in the center, since it's 7 different institutions all around Ireland. It's really difficult to get to know them, so we wanted to do that and to have something to show everyone and have the researchers of iCRAG get a bit more recognition. For the science communication routes, yeah, totally, maybe considering it. What about you, Niamh?
I'm definitely considering it, but I think for now my focus is to finish the PhD, because that's that seems like it's a never-ending story at the moment. But so maybe ask me again once I'm finished. But we've got some other great questions. We have one that how does iCRAG differ from the or collaborate with EAGE? Age? I don't know.
Yeah, that's from Chip Corbett.
Yeah.
Jen, do you want to answer that?
I think Koen might be better placed, but I can certainly start. Obviously EAGE is a professional association, and iCRAG is not a professional association. iCRAG is an academic applied research centre. So I guess that's the difference. How do we collaborate? Well, actually, very recently, we try and participate. We have individuals who are members, and one of our recent hires, our business development manager, recently has been participating, I think, in their conference that they had last week. Emer Caston, and you'll hear from Emer later today. She's moderating one of the sessions. Koen, I don't know if you want to add to that.
No, not really. I mean, you summarized it very well. This is something to ask again, Chip. I'd say in the session, in the breakout session, definitely ask that one, because it'll be very relevant there.
Yeah, there's another question from Francesca. How has your role changed in the last 18 months through the pandemic? To be a COO remotely, not an easy task.
No, not an easy task, but I'm very, very lucky to have a great team of people. It hasn't been easy for them either. It hasn't been easy for any of the researchers. We've certainly had to learn how to to change how we interact, change how we engage, and learn how to work in a very different world. There are some negatives of that, but I think the positives certainly have outweighed those. And, apart from the children turning up on many of the calls, it's been relatively straightforward.
Perfect. Well, I think that's sort of all we have time for in terms of questions, but you can keep asking them. And there's also the sessions later on we can ask questions, but also feel free to get in contact with us on Twitter as well, or just message us on Instagram as well. But yeah, so just a quick last question for you, Jen. What can people expect from today's event?
Thanks, Niamh. That's a great question. I'm sure people are really curious to know. So I think for most people attending the event, they're going to really learn about the breadth of our research in iCRAG, the research we do to help tackle those big sustainability and climate challenges that face our planet. They're going to hear about research across our challenges in our Earth System Change Challenge, our research that's focused on the provision of sustainable energy and the necessary raw materials we need. And also hear how the geoscience can impact society. More generally, I think it's going to be a great opportunity to virtually engage and meet the people and the researchers behind iCRAG. Obviously, we would have loved to have done this in person. It's just not possible. Hopefully we can next year. Just to say, I would be more than delighted to talk to any stakeholder or any individual attending today at any point throughout the day. So please send me a direct message on the Hop-In platform. Or I could meet you at any stage during the spatial chat. So I'd just like to say, finishing, if that's okay, that I really hope people leave today with a better understanding of who we are and what we do, and how our geoscientists are playing a real pivotal role in building our future sustainable society.
Thank you, Jen. Yeah, I'm sure they will. Koen, do you have a last word or something you are looking forward to about today?
I just want to say that I'm really looking forward to hearing about the full breadth of the center, and especially the keynote speakers as well, because we've got some really cool keynote speakers lined up, I think.
Brilliant.
Well, thank you very much to you both. Sorry. Thank you very much to you both for joining on our first ever live taping of iCRAGorama. And if you arrived in the middle and you want to re-listen to this episode, it will be available on everywhere: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts. Usually, as soon as we are finished with this, or it might be a few days before it appears online, but you will be able to re-listen to it. And follow us at iCRAGorama on Twitter and Instagram, and we will. And you can re-listen to all of season 3 and all the previous episodes, and there might be more episodes soon to come. So thank you, Koen, thank you, Jen, for joining, and thank you to all the audience for watching. That has been a pleasure, and now it's time for us to chat with Fergus again, and then we will see you in iCRAG 2021 for a great day. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Million, fun. Bye.